This time on Ask Rad Rat, we talk about ABEC ratings, we talk about skating in the UK, and a couple other things. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video Channel, where you can learn new things about skateboarding. Talk about all kinds of different skateboarding topics on this channel, including answering your questions here on Ask Rad Rat. Think up some questions to send me at the end of the video so that I can feature them in a future one. First, we're hearing a question from Troy, who asks, what tricks are you learning now? There's not a lot that I'm actually working on right now because I don't get to skate as much as I'd like to. I'm getting old now. I'm 31. I was going to go skate a couple days ago, but my back hurt too much. So I know that's ridiculous. I should be able to skate more than that. But I'm hoping that'll change in the spring or summer. It'd be nice to find a nice spot. That's one of my main problems, is finding somewhere to actually skate. I have a dirt driveway. I can't really skate here, but it would be cool to find somewhere close. And I'm hoping to get that figured out so I can skate a lot more like I used to. But now when I do skate, I just try to do consistency stuff. I pick a couple of tricks that I'd like to work on and just kind of drill and just cruise around and do them. Do a 360 flip, I'll do a 50-50 grind, I'll ride over here, I'll try to do a frontside flip. You know, just putting together lines that are easy and just trying to do them well. That's what I get most out of with skateboarding right now. That's what's the most fun to me. That's what feels the best. So yeah, I don't know really what I would want to work on more than that. I think just drilling the basics more, getting them better, higher, maybe some more combos would be cool. Like I can kickflip 5-0 fairly often. It'd be cool to be able to do some more advanced stuff consistently. I think that's kind of the main thing for me right now. Next question is from Mati, who says, I don't know if this has been asked already, but what is ABEC and why did it get associated with bearings? I reckon it has something to do with how well the bearings turn, but what exactly is it? I bought some Bone Swiss back in the day, and the shopkeep told me it was ABEC 9. Have to admit they were smooth and felt like they could roll a couple of miles on one push, but what exactly did that? So the ABEC rating, from my understanding, is for how perfectly spherical and smooth the balls in the bearing are, and it's for really high RPM like machines and stuff that are going crazy fast. They just need to be as perfect as possible. And sure, you want your skateboard bearings to be as perfect as they can be, but we're talking like going 100 miles an hour, you might feel the difference between ABEC 5 and 7. Like it doesn't really matter for you or for me or for anyone who's riding a skateboard. It matters for heavy machinery and stuff. But the thing is, it's all we've got. There's no other number you can throw out to help people compare which bearing they should buy. So if you're at a skate shop, what else could you see that shows the difference between this one and this one and this one and help you decide? There's really nothing you could come up with. So that rating already exists, so we just kind of use it. Some brands refuse to use it, which I think makes perfect sense because it doesn't do any good. You can get a really, really good ABEC 5 bearing, let's say, good for skateboarding at least, and then compare that to an ABEC 7 that costs less. Like it's really complicated. So the things that would make your bearing actually better would be the overall design, like the track where the balls go into it. What is that made out of? How is it, like how much lubricant or oil is in there? The quality of that oil, exactly what they make it out of, like how the shield stays on, does it let in dust? That type of stuff is a lot more important than how precisely perfect all the balls inside of it are. And one of the other things would be that you'd have to consider with the bearing is how durable it is. If you were to take one of those really high-end bearings out of a machine, and if it was the right size and pop it into your wheel, it might roll really, really smooth, but it might get gunked up real fast. It might not be able to take the forces from like power sliding, forces going against the bearing this way. It might not be able to take those, and it might break real easy. So there's a lot of complicated stuff that goes into bearings more than most other things. Trucks are complicated too, but there's just no way that you can rate a bearing compared to the rest of bearings that make you understand exactly where they stand. Basically, with bearings, you get what you pay for, I think is a good way to think about it. There is some branding involved. You might get real cheap bearings that are just have a nice name and flashy colors or something like that. But for the most part, you just kind of get what you pay for with bearings. So I wish there was an easier scale to talk about that could replace ABEC, but that's just all we got. Okay, next question is from Blunt Fakey. It says, two-part question. What are your thoughts on skateboarding in the UK? There's been a number of prolific skaters, Tom Penny, Jeff Rowley, etc. from there. Do you think skating in an environment where it is difficult to skate, bad weather, bad spots, makes for better skaters due to powering through the crustiness? Or do you feel like skating in those places will always be secondary to places where people can skate every day virtually anywhere they want? Also, I can't land crooked grinds very consistently. It's super annoying. I'll answer that last part first because it's a little quicker. Crooked grinds are one of my favorite tricks. And I think the two keys to it are confidence. You got to be able to land on the nose and just trust that you're not going to be thrown off the front. You got to just land on it solid and have more speed than you think you need. I used to do crooked grinds on my box, and I would grind until I was almost out of speed. Then trying to land it straight was pretty much impossible. The board would just tip over. You'd always have to pull it around to fakie. But if you have enough speed, when you go to pop it off, the wheel is sliding and it'll just keep on sliding and it'll slide off forward and then you can land straighter. So having a little more confidence, a little more speed, that's true for most grinds, of course, but with crooked grinds for sure, that may help you. But for the second part, about the UK. So I've never been to the UK, but I was I used to love going to British skate forums, like Skate UK, I think was what it was called, the one I would go to a lot. A lot of good discussions there, a lot of the games of skate that you could play on there and everything were a lot of fun. And one thing that they always talked about, what everyone always complained about, was how rough the ground was and how much it rained, and how that made it so much harder to skate. And I would always get really annoyed because where I was from, I had really, really rough spots, and it rained fairly often, maybe not quite as much, but it snowed for 4 months a year. So I'm in a similar situation. Now I live in Colorado where it's fine, but I was in a very similar situation with really terrible spots and crust and garbage everywhere. And I've definitely had to overcome some of that stuff too. I'm not sure it did me a lot of good, but for example, where my mom used to work. So back, when I wasn't old enough to drive yet and stuff, maybe I would go to a friend's house. They'd take me to my mom's work so she could take me home after work. I'd skate in that parking lot a lot. And they expanded the parking lot. So they added a whole new section, brand new, perfectly paved. It was so nice. I would skate on there. You could do tricks and actually slide them out and everything for about a year. After a year, you couldn't even roll on it anymore. It was so rough. Just huge cracks and just like, you could ollie gaps in the parking lot that were just the parking lot falling apart. So like everything was just really terrible pavement all over the place. And that's what I was used to. But it's tough to say right now whether that is a good or a bad thing. If you're used to that kind of stuff, it gives you more options for spots, of course. You can skate something that most people can't because you're used to landing in something really rough, knowing you've got to land and like push the board forward because it wants to sink into the pavement, that type of stuff. But my other experience, I went to California in 2005, and it was a family trip. It wasn't like a skate trip or anything like that. But I brought my skateboard with me because I wanted to say that I did a trick at a spot somewhere in California. And I went to the beach. It was Santa Monica, maybe? I don't remember. It's been a long time. But it was just a sidewalk along the beach, and then there were some benches. And I've been to skate parks that are worse than that. Like the sidewalk was perfectly flat. The cracks, they're just, the sidewalk cracks are just these really thin lines. Growing up in Michigan, the cracks were always like the sidewalk, then it would curve down, and there'd be this big crack, then it would curve back up. So the crack felt enormous. You had to unweight for each crack because they were so thick. But this is like nothing. You're just skating along it, perfectly smooth, felt great. All the benches were all waxed up. I ollied up onto one, did a 50-50. I wasn't going fast, but I just grinded right out, no problem. Dropped off. Like I said, I've been to skate parks that are worse. And so which one would be better? That's hard to say. I would have preferred to have perfect ground and perfect everything all the time, of course. And I think that it might have led to me being able to do better tricks. It's harder to learn grinds on crust and roughness than it is to learn on a perfectly smooth, polished concrete or angle iron or something like that. But it just kind of depends where your skateboarding is going to go. Being able to have more spots and being able to be more creative because you can skate stuff that most people can't is definitely a plus. I think that tricks tend to transfer better to camera though, versus how rough the spot was. Like if I see two similar tricks, you do a 360 flip down a 6 set, this guy does a 360 flip down 4, but if you look real close and zoom in, you can see that the ground was rougher. Like I think the 6 set is always going to be more impressive. So that's just a tough one. Like it's just different. I can't say one was better than the other, because I did see a guy, it was on Instagram the other day. It was somewhere in Europe, I'm sure, and he did a trick down some stairs, and he landed on these cobblestones, and they were not, like the cracks were this way to him, so it was like landing on these angled cobblestones, so his board could have easily caught one in a rut, especially when he landed. If you landed right in one of those cracks, like I was really impressed by how hard it would have been to just land on that and roll away cleanly. So I don't know, it's tough. You can debate which one is better than the other, but I always think it's going to be more impressive to most people to see a really good trick done on a perfect spot. But I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I feel like I'm kind of going in circles on that one. I'm not sure what else to say about that. Last question is from Andy C., who asked, how do you think skateboarding helps with mental health, emotional difficulties? I know a lot of skaters coming up in the 80s or 90s were from difficult backgrounds, and skateboarding was an outlet for them. Might not be the same these days with skating being more mainstream, but I still think it has the power to help. I don't know, because my mental health is in the toilet, but there are a couple things that are really helpful from my understanding. One is art, like having an outlet, a creative outlet that helps you to get out your feelings. So skateboarding might not be the same as picking up a paintbrush, but you know, if you're feeling really angry and you just like do a really fast grind or something, you know, like you still get that same sort of outlet where you are able to channel those emotions into something, or you can create a new way to put some tricks together or do a line or something. There's always a way to get those feelings out through skateboarding, which is cool. One of the other things that's supposed to help a lot is just being physically active for a couple reasons. Getting, you know, the blood flow and dopamine and all that stuff going from just being active is supposed to be really good as well. And if you can skate so hard that when you get home you're tired enough to actually sleep when you might not be able to otherwise, that's a positive too. So in a bunch of different ways, skateboarding is pretty much ideal for helping sort through things. And it also depends, like one of the things for me, you know how a lot of people say they do their best thinking in the shower. I've always thought that was just because that's the only time you're not being bombarded with other people's thoughts. You know, if you're at work, your boss is talking to, your coworkers are talking, you're listening to a podcast, or whatever's going on, there's always stuff coming in. Your whole drive home, you're listening to something, you're listening to your Spotify on the way home or something. There's always stuff coming in. And when you're in the shower, you got that 15 minutes when there's nothing coming in, you can actually think. And that's where people say they have their best ideas or think up their best stuff. I think skateboarding can do that same thing. If you're out, especially just cruising, you're not really focusing on tricks too much, you're just kind of maybe doing some basic stuff, rolling around, that can give you that time where you're alone with your thoughts and you can actually think things through and process things and express what you're feeling, you know, as you're thinking it. Like I said, with being aggressive because you had you're frustrated with something and you just throw yourself down a couple stairs and potentially get hurt or whatever, you're helping process those thoughts. So as far as a mental health thing, I would say it's probably very good. If I ever figure mine out, I'll let you know. But there's also the other thing of that skateboarding is taking the place of other coping mechanisms you could have. If you're out skating all the time, you're not getting into drugs, you're not doing all this other stuff, you're not hanging with the wrong crowd who's going to get you into this or that or whatever. So I do think skateboarding is generally very healthy, both physically and mentally. So yeah, I would recommend it. I'm not a doctor. You should go to a doctor. I should go to a doctor too. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. If you came up with a question throughout this video, go to radratvideo.com and submit it with the form on the homepage so I can use that in a future video. But until that video comes out, make sure you subscribe, tap my logo right in the middle of the screen, and there are a couple more videos you can check out as well. Thanks for watching.